Hi, I'm Vyjayanthi Kashi. I'm basically from Bangalore, a city which today has reached globalization. And I come from a very traditional family of actors. In fact, my grandfather, Dr. Gubbi Veeranna, he's a legend, and he's created a great thing in theatre. Like all the great film people today or theatre people have had training under his school, which was a touring theatre. And he, in fact, a century before, he created a three-dimensional stage, a revolving stage. And he was the only artist who got animals like elephants, horses, onto the stage when he represented the great Kurukshetra war. And I heard the king of Mysore used to grant these animals for him, being impressed by his theatre work. So my background is such. And my father and mother were great fans of art. My father was just fond of Vyjayanthi Bali, who's a film actress and a classical danseuse. And in fact, my parents decided to have a girl baby, name her Vyjayanthi, teach her dance. And probably it's their passion that has made me who I am today. And the background that I come from, theatre, is why I took up Kuchipudi. So into dance, even in my mother's probably womb, I started. I was trained earlier from the age of 6 to 13 in Bharatanatyam by a very good guru, Ramana from Tumkur. He was a perfectionist. But, I was too young to know why I was dancing or to even know why I felt it hard to dance because my father, he said, if you don't practice today, no school. That was his focus. So somewhere I started hating dance, probably. Or it could also be that my guru was too strict for my age. The guru has to understand the age of the student. Of course, every guru wants to instill perfection into the child. But, if you expect the perfection which is not possible from a child, probably you're snatching the child away from the art form. And also, because of my passion for theatre, I think I was in search of an art form which could give me more freedom to express, more creativity to express. And also, I always wanted to be different from the other. That probably made me say goodbye to Bharatanatyam when I was 13.
That was in Bangalore itself?
Yes.
So, the whole your training was in Bangalore?
Yeah. Then I caught up with studies, and at the age of 18, I was offered to act in a theatre play where dance also was the folklore. And I got to do the heroine's role under a very good director, Naga Bharan, who's a presidential awardee. And also the script was by Kambar, one of the Jnanapith Prashastis. That was my entry into theatre, where I met my husband and I excelled. People say, oh, she was a very good actress. And I was almost in love with theatre, and I acted in many plays. I did an art film with Girish Karnad. So theatre really opened up the doors for me. I love theatre. It gives you a broader perspective. It gives you the art to address the heart. Because in dance, when something is very stylized and when it is less of speech, it's more of expressions, more of mudras, I think the way you connect to a common audience becomes difficult. So I really enjoyed theatre, but still, you see, once a dancer, a lifetime a dancer. This is what I feel. My body was so disciplined, and the cells were breathing dance because also of my passion of my parents. So I was in search of an art form which could, combine both the tactics of dance and theatre, and that's when I found my guru, C.R. Acharya of Andhra, and Guru Prahlada Sharma from Andhra, who just made me fall in love with Kuchipudi. C.R. Acharya is not you see, Kuchipudi is from a tiny village called Kuchipudi, where in the past, there existed only about 9 or 11 families who devoted themselves for dance. I'm talking many centuries before. But C.R. Acharya was from a Purohit family. He was a Brahmin. He was a learned scholar, and he worked his family worked in some temples in Newswood in Andhra. And he was a very creative person. He's the only guru who concentrated more on the temple rituals. So some people say that his was Alaya Nritya. But when I see what he taught me, and when I discovered and learned from many gurus, I knew he was very deep rooted in Kuchipudi, but he creatively used the temple rituals and blended it into Kuchipudi, especially the art, where an artist pours color powder on the floor, and she uses the different padakarmas, the footwork, and at the end of that, for 3 minutes, you are able to draw a beautiful picture of a peacock or a simha. And I remember my guru telling me that this roots to the lower underprivileged caste who were not let inside the temples. They would draw the mandalas in front of the temple, and they excelled in this art of, during festive occasions, to make it more relevant to the festival. They started drawing this with their feet. But this art was later very brilliantly incorporated and brought to stage with a lot of musical elements, musical rhythms, and intricate rhythmic patterns, which today those rhythmic patterns are not known. Many mridangists or the percussionists hardly know of this particular thalas, which are called Simhanandana Thal or Mallika Mod Thal, and many others. So, as I said, I was looking for something different, so I started my journey with Kuchipudi, and later I went to Andhra, where I met this most traditional guru, Prahlada Sharma, Vedantam Prahlada Sharma, who comes from the Kuchipudi village. When you say Kuchipudi, nobody can forget Vedantam Satyanarayana Sharma. He excelled in the male used to do the female's role, and he was so beautiful. It's his brother. So my guru is the brother and guru of Satyanarayana Sharma, a very great traditionalist, and my roots, my strength comes from him. Later, of course, I interacted and learned from many gurus, because I'm basically from Karnataka. Neither did I know the language, neither did I know the tradition, but I was in love with that art form. So, when I traveled in those earlier days, every city had a different version of Kuchipudi. So I was confused. I go to Andhra, that's another version. I go to Calcutta, where there's this university which has Kuchipudi as its degree, and it's another version. I went to Chutney, it's another version. In Bangalore is another version. So I wanted to discover the roots of this form, which led me to meet the legends in Kuchipudi. Vedantam Prahlada Sharma, Korada Narsimha Rao, Bharatakala Prapurna Korada Narsimha Rao, who was a specialist in Yakshagana, P.V.G. Krishna Sharma, who was an excellent traditionalist in Yakshagana, Vedantam Satyanarayana Sharma in the Kalapams, I met Chidambara Dikshit, I met the great-grandfather of Kuchipudi, where I interacted with some, but I learned from some. Rataya Sharma and few others. You see, the language was different, the culture was different. And for me to imbibe this, to breathe, let my cells breathe it, was so important that I started discovering and digging it. And slowly in the process, very cleverly understood that there has been a great evolution in Kuchipudi, not only in Kuchipudi. All the art forms over this century have evolved, and sometimes sadly and badly, it has evolved so much that it's sometimes losing its roots, which should never happen. That way, I'm deeply rooted in my tradition, but make a few changes which are bound to happen when you have to address the audience of today. Because in any art form, the audiences play the key role. You may have the best traditions, but if you don't have an organizer, if you don't have a promoter, if you don't have an audience who would love to know about it, then what happens to the art form? It's dead. So, like now, if I did something very old Telugu script in Karnataka, where nobody understood this language, how would people like Kuchipudi? This happened to me several times. So I started getting scripts written in the local language, kept the grammar and presented it. And it was so well appreciated. So what I brilliantly did, I balanced in between. Like if I did 3 items of the traditional, I involved 2 more items of my language. So people could feel it, and through this they could even understand it. For example, the Kuchipudi dance dramas were presented overnight for several nights in the past, 7 nights, 3 nights. Tell me which audience today will come even for more than 3 hours. So, you take the essence of the dance drama. See, like I would give you a very good example. In the past, a single line like, "Where is my dear Satyabhama? Where is she? Where is she? Where is she gone? Where is she?" The artist would present it more than 25 to 30 times, just "Where is she?" And in the past, the audiences said, "Wow, what a lot of interpretation for one single line." But today, if I say "Where is she?" even 10 times very differently, people already know where is she, and they don't have the kind of patience, the kind of concentration, the kind of appreciation. They don't want to appreciate this. They want to know where is she, and she is here. So I see that due to many reasons, economical, political, financial, and whatever, changes have come. But that doesn't mean that we are losing the tradition. Some do, but I think this is where every artist must know the roots, and then must know the grammar, must know the roots, must know the theory, and then know which part of it can be handled brilliantly without losing the tradition. See, and in the past, there were only 3 or 4 subjects that these gurus did. But today, there are several challenges that an artist has. Can I just do only those 4 subjects? Today, how people see Sita is different, and how people saw Sita dressed is different. I have to keep Sita's virtues, her purity, her the feel of it. But then I'll have to present Sita not like a very traditionalist, but Sita even then rebelled. Sita did rebel. Her saying, "I don't want to come back to Ayodhya, I want to go back to my mother," itself is a strong personality. You can't show Sita just because she did everything that Rama said. You can't show her very timid. I would not, at least as a dancer of today, but I would show her as an Uttama Nayaka, as the one filled with virtues, as the one very graceful, as the women of yesteryears. So this is where, if you know not only the tradition, you should know the texts, the literature aspect. It's very, very important because, as you all know, dance has a combination of literature, music, theatre and dance. So all these skills, if you're well equipped in, go back to the times of where your dance started and think of today and tomorrow. I think every artist can be brilliant.
Then the question of traditions comes. So what for you was the essence of the traditions? You was looking for the root. Is it a grammar? So is it a technical part, or is it more like some kind of inner meaning, like abhinaya, that had gone through abhinaya? So what was the result of your discovering of the tradition in Kuchipudi itself?
As I told you, it's not enough that you go and learn one set of items and say you know the tradition. It's just impossible. One is you must live in the land where it began. You must read the history, the So I think what tradition is you need to know, go to the land of its origin. Try to understand the history of it. Understanding the history of it, its development and evolvement, plus knowing the texts, as I said, is very important. Knowing the techniques. Technique is a part of dancing, but that alone doesn't suffice. See, when actually Kuchipudi started, I heard there were only 20 steps, because if you look at it, why is it a dance drama technique? It was a yakshagana. It was called yakshagana. Why? Because it has its influence from Harikatha, it has its influence from Agati Vesha, it has its influence from Varrakatha and many things. So, one, if there is a leader or if there is a visionary who sees who took a combination of all this to create something which will address today's generation, and if that can convince people, which has the grammar, which has the essence of what it's been taken from, and if public are convinced from it, it lives for a certain time. Now that's how I think all these forms, all the classical dance forms, have lived for over a century now. And today people are just searching to make something new out of it. And unless there's somebody very brilliant, there will not be something which will come out of it.
No riyaz, no sadhana.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
So traditions means a sadhana.
Sadhana.
Long way into reality.
Yes.
Into
see, today our girls, our boys are very smart. They're very fast in grasping. But then, what is lacking, I think personally, is to learn one marga of items. Though I could learn it very fast, I took 2 to 3 years because I wanted to feel it into my system. I wanted to feel it in my emotion. I wanted to breathe it, understand it. But today, people catch it very fast without feeling it. And they're smart enough to just express. But, it should come from here. And when it comes from here, you can't lie. You can't just lie. You can't just glamorize it. And what is the essence of any production or any artist? You must be able to touch the heart of your audience. And when does this happen? Only when you breathe it. Only when you worship it. Only when you practice it. Only when your cells can say, yes, now the step comes without my attention. It just flows into it. This takes several years. There's no shortcut into these art forms. My guru, Satyanarayana Sharma, in fact, he never taught anybody. And one day I asked him why. He said during his time, they were taught only 2 or 3 steps a month. And if today I as a teacher would do it, people would run away from the class and I would get a bad reputation, because one is, here is where I must understand, the children are faster today. They are exposed to videos, they're exposed to so many things. And if they are capable of taking 15 to 20 steps a month, why not give them? Why waste their time? So the way of living, the way of how you understand your guru, how you understand the art, or what you want to do with the art, what is the survival of it, many things have changed. So with this, there is bound to be a change in the presentation technique, in the understanding, or in the support system. Like take for example the jewelry in Kuchipudi. They were made out of wood. And Kuchipudi, as you know, was Yakshagana, which means a dance drama technique, or Natya Mela. Today, it's been replaced with temple jewelry and brass jewelry, including me. Why? Because there's hardly anybody in Andhra who would do this jewelry. When I questioned them, they said it takes a lot of time, effort and money and labor. And we make and wait for, if we make this our profession and there are no people who take it, how will my family survive? But luckily in Karnataka Yakshagana, because it's supported by temples and artists are booked for 3 years, 4 years, it still exists in Karnataka Yakshagana. But Kuchipudi Yakshagana, even the legends have changed it. And we can't blame them because we don't get it. So how would you survive? So can you say that just because I don't wear the jewelry, I've lost its tradition? No. So before people comment, they should try to know about this. But now I have decided that I'll try to take the designs and work this out with the Karnataka people, because even to get their address was a little difficult, and luckily I found somebody. Mm-hmm. So
this evolution in Kuchipudi, do you feel that the film has also great impact? So emerging of the cinema industry and Kuchipudi involved into the cinema industry, do you feel some kind of relations between these two things?
Especially with Kuchipudi. See, Kuchipudi evolved from, it started in a village, and today hardly people there follow the old principles of saying one boy is dedicated for Kuchipudi, because it's a question of survival. And my gurus used to say, how can creativity come when the basic needs are not addressed? So many gurus, even in the past and even today, when they cannot survive, they move out of their village. Some went to Elur, some people say they went to Melatur, some people majorly came to Chennai. So some gurus traveled to Chennai, many gurus in fact, and they started choreographing for movies. Probably, I think this is my understanding. There was a lot of money, name, glamour in the field. Many gurus like Vempati Pedda Satyam, Vempati Chinna Satyam, Krishnamurti Garu, and many more have choreographed dance for many a Telugu movies. In the process, there are some things which have got into dance, like the eye. It always wants to take the good things from something, you know. So I think like those 2 rings which the Kuchipudi people have as a tradition today must have come from there, because probably when a heroine was shot, they wanted to give her a height, and you know they had the 2 rings, and from then it looked so different and beautiful, and probably it became one of the parts of the tradition. And the costumes, you know, before it was just sari, later for, you know, poses and all that, then they started looking for something like salwar. And then because of the influence of the media, the film media, probably the costumes became tightened and glamorous. And the ideas that these gurus must have taken something and involved it in the presentation technique, especially Vempati Chinna Satyam, because he stylized the dance, because he was in Chennai also, where there was a lot of influence of Bharatanatyam, and if he had to survive, he had to, you know, make it very concrete. So there was some amount of inputs that guru gave. He perfectionized it. He made it very, you know, so in this process, I have seen PVG Krishna Sharma, who still stuck to the tradition. and he never rose beyond, everybody says he's a great legend. But today, PVG, other than having created Yamini Krishnamurti, Radha Raja Reddy, and me, he is known as a great guru. But the popularity came from Dr. Vempati Chinnasatya, who did bring in a lot of changes, which is, of course, some feel it is thanks to him, and he systematized it, and he gave it even, like I said, when I traveled in different parts, it was so different. And today there's some understanding of Kuchipudi. Now, when in the process of discussion, I also heard, because in the olden days, now a person who was always put to do a female role, the same step, when that person, the technique is very delicate, is very tiny, it's not energetic, it's not broad, he would teach his disciple in that form. So the feel of the technique when learned from a guru who specialized in a female role could be different from a guru who specialized in a manly role or in a sutradhara or a comical role. To some extent, I think that gave rise to these changes. And also you see a dance drama technique, a yakshagana form, becoming a solo form, obviously changes are bound to happen. I've seen these changes even in Odissi, because the roots of Odissi is Gutipua. And today when we see Odissi, there is similarities between Kuchipudi because they are neighboring states. But you see Pankaj Charandas, his kind of Odissi is so different from Kelu Baba's. And Kelu Baba was so popular. Even in Bharatanatyam, these changes have happened. And I think change is the law of nature. But what I as a traditionalist believe is, when you know the roots, when you know the essence, you can't change it all, and you shouldn't change it all. If you want to change it like Nataraja Ramakrishna, he called it Andhra Natyam, and he did something. Like now, Sapna Sundari is doing Vilasini Natyam. Padma Subramaniam, she called it not Bharatanatyam, I think she called it Bharatanaryam or something. So this is, people can't make controversies in this. But then if you look at Natya Shastra, there were no styles mentioned. So every style, including the Karnataka Yakshagana, when you deeply look into it, has everything or has something that is mentioned in Natya Shastra. So it's how well you understand the form, how deep-rooted you are in the form, how your strength, your personal strength to follow it also becomes very important. Like Kuchipudi has been male-oriented form where men don the female roles, but I take subjects only with females because I don't have men in Karnataka. So obviously my presentations of Sita with only the voice of Rama can make, because Vachika is very important in Kuchipudi. Now, I don't bring a male character. I just say, I put one male voice and only speak of the Ramas. So, obviously the presentation can look different. But then, I would think that this voice of Rama itself is Vachika of Kuchipudi. So, if people discuss with me, I can tell them where it comes from. So, it's to tell this and to tell people, yes, it is in the tradition. You must know your roots, you must know your grammar, you must know the origin of it. Though Kuchipudi started at a male-dominated form, ever since the solo aspect came in, as introduced by Vedantam Lakshmi Narayana Shastri, there's a lot of work that women have contributed, like performers, like teachers, like researchers, like gurus, like organizers. So, and not only inside Andhra, there are many people who have made Kuchipudi popular outside of Andhra. For example, me from Karnataka and Smita Shastri in Gujarat. Many people. See, without knowing the language, I had such a tough time to get even a script. So it's very important that these things are documented for the future generation. Because tell me, if there were no girls, there are hardly boys who are taking up this art form. how would this art form survive? So isn't that itself suffice to say that there's been a lot of work on women contribution? So this is why I started a national seminar and festival, which is titled Nayika, and it's usually presented on during the time of International Women's Day, where we have talks on how the women from different generations who talk about how the art form was, what was the technique, what were the difficulties they had to face, what is their contribution as either performers, researchers, teachers or whatever. And in the morning we have talks, the evenings we have performances by different generations and different places, so that we want the future to know, because today will be history tomorrow.
This festival is held in Bangalore also, only
No,
some various places?
Last year I had it in Bangalore. This year I'm having it in Chennai on 7th March. Next year I want to tour this in every state of India, because I think it's very important.
In pan-Indian level?
Yeah.
Including various forms? Various forms?
Right now, till I'm able to finish with the old generation of Kuchipudi, I freeze it to Kuchipudi, and later would like to involve the other forms as well, because there are women, a lot of women who have contributed, but at some point discontinued because either their husbands couldn't let them, or because of poverty, or because of society pressure, or because of their health, so many things. But they've been very silently contributing. So, and I think we must remember these people and make them a part of, known to the younger generation.
Another festival that was Yaksha.
A festival of
So
Yakshas.
what does Yaksha means to you? How you came to this topic? How the whole issue of Yakshagana came into your life?
I was in a world conference where I saw many documentation of dance forms in the past century. And when I saw it, I discovered that everything, like in China, the kind was also a dance drama technique, like a group of people telling a story from that kind of region. And I slowly discovered that Yakshagana is the earliest literary text. It's only the literary text, and that was called Yakshagana. And later, by practice, people started calling anything, if they performed this, they called it Yakshagana. Kuchipudi Yakshagana. No, they say it's the earliest literary text. That's what they say. The scholars whom I've discussed with, they said that's the earliest mention of text, which was kind of text that was available. And they were called anything that was presented from epics, presented by a group of people donning different roles, is Yakshagana. And like in Kerala it's called Natanam, and in Chennai it's called different, in Karnataka it's called different, in Andhra it's called different, in Orissa it's called different. The names are different, but the treatment of the art form and the subjects had all the similar things. Even in China, I saw this in the documentary of China. So I think that it was in another way, it was all the Natya Mela, the group presentation, talking of an epic or theme and having certain roots. Later, all these solos, these duets, these things have come up because of the need or the demand from the society.
What is interesting about Yakshagana in Karnataka, they never take some stories from local traditions. So they never take the stories of local epics. It is only about pan-Indian level. So it's only about Ramayana, Mahabharata.
Actually, in Kuchipudi also, majorly, why it is called Kuchipudi Bhagavatam, stories taken from the Bhagavatam. But then there were brilliant gurus in the past. I heard they even presented stories like Hitler many years before. And they were waking the people, making them conscious that don't let people to dominate or to rule over it. Because art, as mentioned in Natya Shastra itself, says that it is meant to take people onto a moral path. That's what Bharata says. So probably Though majorly even today we all take stories from the Bhagavatam or Ramayana, once in a way we do take other subjects. Like recently I did Rudramma Devi, about the queen who at the age of 14 took an oath that she would save her king. At the age of 14 she learns all the forms of warrior weapons and she saves her land. So these things become very important, especially at a time when women are being exploited, to inspire women, saying even from those days, at the age of 14, if a girl can say, I will take care of my country, then why do you let people exploit you? So I think addressing the society also becomes a part of art at some times.
You do it also?
Yeah,
you do.
I do it. I do it.
You have also some productions about
Yes.
Modernity,
Yes.
about addressing modernity.
Yes.
Like what? Like
I've done something on AIDS. I've done something on the women leaders, women warriors. Like I did Jhansi, I did Kitturani Channamma, and I did it on the 50th year of India's independence to show how women have contributed to the freedom of the country. One is to bring an awareness, and another is, at some point, as a choreographer, I also want to know and realize how would I use my art and my tradition to address the problems of today.
and it's possible to do it in the subject level, so in the topics level. So if you pick up some topic from the reality itself,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I know there are some people who strongly oppose this idea, so they don't like. They say that it's just demolish the tradition. What is your idea? What is your feeling? This addressing the modernity. In
I
what
think
kind of
as long as you know your rules and you're able to convince the scholars and convince yourself you're not crossing your boundaries and breaking the rules, but still you're able to convey the essence of the theme, then I personally think it's not wrong. Because you see, Natya Shastra, Bharata mentions that what are padams? Tell me, what are padams? They bring Radha and Krishna. Isn't it love story between two humans? If what are these emotions? Whom are we dealing with? Are we pleasing the gods alone, or are we pleasing humans? My subject, if I am not able to touch even one heart, then who is going to come and watch my performance, is my question. So I think, as Bharata mentions, dance is nothing but the reflection of life on earth. And obviously, when you're dealing with humans and your dance is all about human emotions, how can one go wrong? One can't go wrong. And that's why I say you must be rooted in tradition. If you are rooted in tradition, because this tradition, they say, dates back to the Veda period, and dance is known as the fifth Veda. If medicine is still answered today from Atharvana Veda or whatever, if music, all the problems of music are still referring to the Vedas, then why not dance? Dance is still referring to the past, and all the answers of the past are relevant today. Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna said in those centuries, even today, management people use it, doctors use it, spiritual leaders use it, political leaders use it, and still there is an answer. Then why not Natya Shastra? How can you say that just because I am addressing or even a problem of AIDS, how could you say that I'm breaking the tradition? I don't believe in this. I don't.
But what is interesting today, that people also get trained not only in one style but also in some others. So do you have this experience of Kalaripayattu or martial arts or some other, or even Yakshagana maybe?
I think so. Even in the past, take the legends. I'm just talking of the legends of the previous generation, like Yamini Krishnamurti, Indrani Rahman. All the names that I know have equipped themselves with many art forms. Like I like Bharatanatyam, I did Kuchipudi, I did theatre. I think these are all connected, and it's very necessary. Like if I do Jhansi or if I did Rudramma, I would still like to use something of martial arts, because Even in Natya Shastra, for Tandava, it's a different language. And I'm sure even in the Natya Shastra, he mentions about great warriors. So when you're presenting a dance drama, this will come handy to you when you know the other art form. How well can I utilize the strength of that and incorporate it to my art? Not put color to that. I won't do that. I would use the body language, the understanding of the technique, and try to see it in this way. I would not bring just martial arts there. I would not do it. I think that's how a brilliant choreographer would use it.
This festival about Yaksha, so that is what was the idea behind that? Did you collected some people, so it was some kind of meeting of the research scholars or
Yeah,
mostly
of
the
course.
practitioners of the
See this,
Yakshagana.
when I saw this, when I see Karnataka Yakshagana, it still has maintained a lot of tradition. And sadly, in Kuchipudi we hardly have any Yakshagana groups left. Being an ardent devotee of Kuchipudi, I wanted to inspire the Kuchipudi people to keep this tradition, which is such a complete and wonderful art form. So, what I did is, I wanted to have this festival regularly because, you see, once you know that this festival is being done, many people get together, try to bring it up. Basically, that was the idea, to do it. And I'm happy that slowly the word is catching up, and in the Kuchipudi village, people are trying to get back its
And
thing.
who participated in this festival? Who participated at that time when you?
In the
It was 1 year
Yak
before. That
Festival
was
of Yakshas.
2014.
Yeah,
Something.
we had. Sadly, Kuchipudi has lost many of the legends in the last 2 years. Like we lost Vempati Chinna Satyam, we lost Vedantam Satyanarayana Sharma, we lost Krishnamurti Garu, PVG Krishna Sharma. Many gurus we lost in the past century, past decade, last year. We had one Bhagavatalu Seturam from Hyderabad, from the Telugu University. We had one from the Kuchipudi village, and we had one more from Vyjayanthi. And of course, the Karnataka Yakshagana, we had many legends, because I remember we had Chittani, we had Manjunath Bhagavatar, we had many people, Sanjeev Suvarna, and so many others. It was done in Udupi, and from morning to evening, we had talks on talking of we had Pappu Venugopal Rao to represent Kuchipudi on the literary differences, literature, music, and aharya, the costumes, the treatment of the subject, and the presentation. So morning we had lot of talks. It was a 3-day festival, and evening what I did was the same subject, like Prahalada is a popular subject in both the forms. How did Yakshagana, Karnataka Yakshagana do it, and how did Kuchipudi do it? Even Satyabhama, Krishna Parijatam is very popular in both the forms. So how did they do it, and how did these people do it? And the Purvaranga Vidhi, how did they do it, and how did these do it? The intention was to show the similarities and the differences, musically, literature-wise, and the presentation-wise.
No Mudalappaya, no Dodatta, Mudalappaya Yakshagana, no?
No, we didn't have Moodalbaya. We had Tenkutittu and Badagatittu. We had both of them.
Do you believe there is some kind of similarities or some maybe content between the Yakshagana and Bhutaradhana?
And
Bhutaradhana.
Bhutaradhana from
the
Kerala,
whole,
from Karnataka, the Bangalore and all
the
that.
whole religious part. So for you personally,
Bhutaradhana.
what is?
See, how I see this. In Kuchipudi we have something called people who are brought up in a very rustic way. Their systems of prayer are different from people who are brought up in a very cultured or literature wise. Like a Brahmin, the way he chants his mantra, the same thing. He would say, God, there is none other than you. For example, I'm translating into English for easy understanding. The melody that he would use. You take a human being, a person who comes from a cultured society, like he would say namaste or good morning is different. These rustic people, their body language is loud and they are very open, they don't care about things and they are very crude in their way of expression. I think Bhutaradhane is something like that. Like Mariamma, they carry the god like this. Whereas cultured people, they try to say mantras are a secret, it must be from within. You can't make it loud. So I think this comes from a loud thing, probably. I would see that when they keep a Ganapati on the street, they say, why do they have to keep it and distract people? I, as an educated person, would think like that. Ganapati is in your heart. You sit and worship him at home. But they think that is the best way of praying because they are spreading the message around. So it all depends with the lifestyle in that particular region, the rituals they have been practicing, because ultimately the belief is there is one cosmic energy which they call probably Bhuta, or I call Devar, God, who is protecting us, who is constantly saving us, who is constantly giving us. So, depending on which family background you come, which part of the country you come from, what are the regional influences, all this change the pattern of your dress, the pattern of your living, the pattern of your praying, the pattern of your eating habits, the pattern of your expressing habits and thinking habits. Everything is the same. The essence is the same. We believe that. See, we use, like in cities, they use the best flowers which is available here. But they go to nature and they identify that this particular herb is good for this god. In the cities, we don't get that herb and probably we lost the knowledge of it. So in Bhutaradhane, the dresses were worn like that. And they believe once they carry the god on the head, he's already, he's got that energy and he's into a trance. But in the cities, we just believe, sit and close your eyes. You're already in a trance. But the ultimate thing is, you want to go to a trance. That's it. An artist's journey is very difficult. I've been observing the lifestyle of my gurus. They were legends. They had much more knowledge than I did. But then they lived in villages. They were very simple. Some became depressed because you see, when you're in the prime of your age, everything is fine. They never planned. They became only spiritual or highly emotional. This is something which I didn't want to be. I saw that some of them became depressed. Some of them took to drinking. Some of them took to womanization. If you see in many art forms or in life, it's the result of depression, I think. Obviously, you're in your prime and you have so many people around you, you have so many performances, it's a glamour. When I, as an artist, decided I want to dance, I was already 25 and I was married and I was working in a bank, but still I wanted to be an artist. So I said I'll keep my bank job because that would give me the security. And always this was in my head that my guru would say, without your your stomach being filled, you can never be creative. So I said, yes, I want to work and still use my evenings for my art. And I was conscious that many of my co-artists were full-time into dance and I'm half-time almost. So I gave it the quality time, the quality, everything that I did was quality. And since I didn't come from a very good income family or what, I had to shift my house for 6 times because every time I went to a house, when people started hearing the sound of the dancing or many people coming in, they would say, ma'am, we can't take it. So after 3 years, you have to vacate. And this is how in my career, I shifted 6 houses. Not more than 3 years in any house. And every time I shifted, I would have trained 70 to 80 artists, out of which 20 would have been quite good. And I lost them because Indian parents don't know that like a good school is very important for education, a good dance school is ultimately important not for dance but for life. Because a wrong body position can change the way a human being carries herself all her life. A wrong thought implanted can change the way she thinks. A good school, dance school is more important, I would say, rather than an education, because dance is the education of the whole human psychology. So, 6 houses, there were so many students whom I was attached to. I one day was depressed and I said, no more teaching in my life. And one of my parents came to me and said, you have the land. I had this land. My husband had bought this land, but it was in the outskirts of the city. Why don't you have a small hall and people will come? I said, no. Initially I was reluctant because it was very far. Even I would find it difficult to come here. Then how would people come? Then she said, just try it, ma'am. And she forced me into it. And I just started to build a small shed. But I think it's the will of God that with the very little amount that I had on my hand, which was suffice to just build a hall with sheets, I started getting performances, students, tours abroad. And I resigned my bank. I took the little amount from my bank, my savings, and with the programs, I ended up building this place, which cost me almost 15 times the money that I had on my hand. And I would say it's just the magic happened because it was supposed to happen, and probably the strong will I had for a good cause. This is a good cause. So I started building my studio where we have 2 residential rooms for outsiders. We have a small intimate stage where we do workshops, performances and class. And we have a library. I have good recordings of many legends and all kinds of art forms, a good collection of books. And more than all, I have a lot of students who now come from many places. And in this 5 years that I've been here, this area too has developed so much that out of my 4 branches, this is one of the busiest centers. So you see, where there's something good, where the intention is good, the cosmic sends its energy.